let's get started with our big, beautiful boy who does everything right, and they indicted him.
Unprecedented third indictment of former President Donald Trump in a federal case that could test American democracy itself. A federal grand jury formally accused Donald Trump yesterday of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election. Now,
I mean, has it cover North Africa? First of all, wouldn't it be West Africa? And like, also, what do you mean cover North Africa? Like, just cover it? Like, do you mean I should cover it? Like, physically cover it? What are we talking about? Cover it with solar panels like Akon?
The 4 felony charges are conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. The indictment follows a sweeping investigation into the deadly January 6th riots and Trump's efforts to remain in power. Robert Costa begins our coverage this morning. He is on Capitol Hill. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Natalie. Former President Donald Trump faces a legal and political reckoning, and his campaign is pushing back hard against the charges, comparing the Justice Department to the Soviet Union and other authoritarian regimes. But many Trump allies behind the scenes, they are on edge, especially about former Vice President Mike Pence emerging as a key witness in this indictment.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States.
In a historic indictment, special counsel Jack Smith charged former President Donald Trump for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election and stoke a crisis.
For his alleged efforts to do everything right. Okay? That's what his alleged efforts were.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
That's what happened. His alleged efforts to do everything right, and then they indicted him. I'm just saying. God damn, there's so much, dude. There's the Lizzo shit. There's the Rudy Giuliani shit. There's so much. Would he be allowed to run for president from prison? There's only one charge and one charge only that could render him useless in the election cycle, and that is if he's charged, I believe, with, isn't it treason? I think one of the charges in the January 6th actually does stop him from running for election. But other than that, yeah, sedition. Other than that, he's clear. He could be literally arrested for murder, and he could still run for president from prison. As a matter of fact, God, he's so good. He's so sexy. I love him.
In American democracy.
As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government.
I have to pee.
The 45-page indictment listed 6 unnamed and uncharged co-conspirators. Sources close to the investigation say the indictment suggests that lawyers Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell, as well as former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark, could be the potential co-conspirators, though the special counsel has not confirmed the identities.
Guys, I can't go to piss, okay? I have to hold it in. I have to hold it in the whole day, because if someone catches me off guard, if someone catches me slipping, if someone catches me pissing, dude, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? It's a wrap, boys. Time for the pee bottle. I need to start. Yeah, I'm stealing views from fucking CBS Mornings. You know what I'm saying? Cares, piss queen. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go do that in a second. I just don't want to leave right now.
It's a rigged election, but we're still fighting it.
The special counsel laid out the case that Trump knowingly spread lies about the election, despite repeatedly being told his...
Brian killed me with throwing shade on you for watching his clip and walking away. Said you were really stupid. Yeah, he said he said react harder.
Claims of fraud were false, including by his own attorney general after the election.
I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public were that the claims of fraud were.
The special counsel accuses Trump of orchestrating a plan to overturn the 2020 election results by organizing fake electors in 7 targeted states in which he lost, and pressured state officials, including Georgia Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger.
I just want to find
a perfect phone call. You're just describing a perfect phone call. He did everything right, and they indicted him.
11,780 votes.
We're going to walk down.
Dude, that's such a fucking dead to rights, funny ass. God, I love that. I love that phone call. It is a perfect phone call, okay? It is so perfect because it's yet again Donald Trump doing things in the most Trumpian way possible. It is such a cartoonish way to operate, to just be like, I am doing something illegal. I have the knowledge that what I'm doing is something illegal, and I will say all of the right things. Like, even if in other circumstances it's something that you could possibly get away with, I am going to do this in this haphazard way. I am going to do this in the stupidest way possible. That will absolutely get me in trouble because I am fully aware that this is not something that I legally can do. It's like saying your full fucking name, date of birth, social security number, and not using a balaclava or a shiesty or anything like that while robbing a bank, and then openly stating that you're robbing a fucking bank. You know what I mean? I, Hassan Piker, am using a gun to rob this bank. It's so odd. He didn't even... Okay, that's Gold Gregory. That's a great point. He didn't even ballpark it. He didn't even say, like, I need, like, around 12,000 votes. Like, even there's an out there. You know, you could just say, like, this is... He didn't even fucking ballpark it. He just said the exact number, which makes it so much worse. God, I love that. I love him so much for being so specific and such a buffoon, okay? This is why Ron DeSantis continues to hang out around despite nobody liking him. Yeah, but I don't think Ron DeSantis... You want to know the saddest part about this? Little Rhonda, in spite of this Hail Mary from the Trump side, which might render him inoperable, unable to run by some, like, Hail Mary, Little Rhonda is so disastrously uncharismatic that it doesn't matter. Like Tim Scott's doing better almost. I mean, he's not, but it's pretty crazy. There's more on the 5-part plan to overturn the election, which was fucking incredible, by the way. And this is all straight up from like actual unsealed documents, some of which we knew about already, some of which we have exact detailed information on now. Trump's third indictment alleges a 5-part plot to overturn the election. 1, knowingly making false claims of election fraud to get state legislators and election officials to subvert the legitimate results. 2, organizing a fraudulent slate of electors in 7 targeted slates. 3, using the DOJ's power to conduct sham election crime investigations. 4, trying to get former VP Mike Pence to fraudulently alter the election results, to which he responded with, "No, Mr. President, I do not think I have the capacity to do that." Did I say something wrong? 7 targeted states? Oh, I said slates? My bad. And number 5, this is the best one, exploiting January 6th violence to get members of Congress to delay certification. And then, if his plan came to fruition, which, by the way, there was no indication that it would ever work, but if his plan were to come to fruition, he said that he would just use the military. He just straight up use the fucking military to squash any kind of protest against him. It's awesome. Now, of course, we got to take a look at what Fox News is saying about all this. Let's take a look. They're panicking a little bit.
Your country anymore.
Kat made this into a horror movie because they're panicking, so they're trying to do everything they can to make it seem like it's not as bad, or rather, it's the government at fault here. You know what I mean? Fox News hosts are all, how are they going to prove he didn't believe the election lies he was saying? And I don't know, probably the same way they proved you didn't believe the election lies you were saying. Yeah, watching election liars defend an election liar by saying maybe the election lies are true, even though we all know they don't believe any of it. A truly incredible performance tonight. Yeah. It's so weird. Do they not realize that, like, you can subpoena? Okay, there's 2. Hold on. There's a second thing here. Recorded conver, where he clearly defines he's can't stop. Oh God, Hasanabi's making a log into the manifestation factory. It will fucking happen. Oh, dude. At this point, I have 0 doubts in my mind that we will have Donald Trump straight up just openly be like, I knew the election was a lie, but I kept lying. I kept lying to them folks. Believe me, I lied. I lied so good. I was knowingly and willingly lying. I know the election was lost. I don't care. What are they going to do? Arrest me? The only defense is that he's mentally ill and cannot be held accountable for his actions, so he has no understanding of the definition of evil. Yeah. Also, yes, we're gonna do Hogwatch for all of the we're gonna do Hogwatch for all the MAGA supporters who are like losing their minds currently and presently. Trump can't stop admitting the things on tape, like Hunter can't stop smoking crack with a gun on tape. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Are you going to talk about Lizzo? Yeah, I think if I have some time. There's so much to cover, dude. Why New York City? I'm here for my mom's dissertation. Anyway, let's look at Fox News and how they're reacting to this.
The legal equivalent of the French guillotine.
A political war crime.
A junk indictment.
The shredding of our Constitution.
They're going full banana republic, full third world on this.
Third world banana republic.
Full banana republic.
Complaining to a governor over the phone? Speaking at a rally?
Never feels like they have the best lawyers.
It's a crime to ask Pence not to certify?
He still believes the election was stolen, and he has good cause to believe so.
You have every right to think an election might be rigged.
We care about the system.
This is the criminalization of disinformation.
Thank you, 34 MKD50 with another 50 gifted subs. Holy moly, dude.
Are we going to now have to go back and find fraud in the 2020 election? Is this now what we're going to go relitigate? I wonder if Pence would agree that that was a crime.
Tomorrow to face new criminal charges in connection with efforts to hold on to power after losing the 2020 election, including the January 6th assault on the Capitol. Now, he is accused of 4 felonies, and they are conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Scott MacFarlane has covered the January 6th investigation from the very start and is on the Capitol now with more on this story. Scott, good morning. A lot to digest here.
It is, Gail. Good morning. The president's accused of knowingly spreading election lies to stop Congress from counting that electoral vote January 6th and of pressuring officials in 7 targeted states, each of which was won by President Biden. In a statement Tuesday night, Special Counsel Jack Smith called it an attack on democracy. This 45-page indictment lists 6 unnamed, uncharged co-conspirators. Sources close to the investigation say the indictment suggests lawyers Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell, and former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark could be those potential co-conspirators, though the special counsel has not confirmed the identities. According to the indictment, Eastman pressured then Vice President Mike Pence not to formally certify those election results and even presented Trump with a memo on how to do it. Eastman's lawyer called the indictment misleading and said his client denies any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, the former president posted a barrage of videos last night calling the indictment a criminalization of free speech and another political war crime. Trump's court appearance scheduled for here tomorrow afternoon is before the same magistrate judge, Natalie, that accepted that grand jury indictment late yesterday.
It's pretty funny to claim this when, in fact, this is absolutely a reasonable boundary on free speech. Free speech doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want. It's like getting upset that someone yelled fire in a crowded movie theater and being like, well, that's crazy. It's like someone getting arrested on the suspicion that they're going to do a school shooting because they said they're going to do a school shooting. You know what I mean? They like planned it out or whatever. Like, yes, of course. In the United States of America, we have a much more lax approach to whatever you can say, both online and in the privacy of your home, whatever the fuck. However, this is one of those circumstances. Oh God, wait, what? Not the fire in a crowded theater shit? I mean, but it doesn't matter. There are understandable and reasonable limitations. That one is a silly one to use, but it's one that everybody kind of understands, even if it's not fully correct. You cannot incite a riot, for example. Okay? Free speech also doesn't mean you are free of the consequences of said speech. Yeah, there's a charge for terroristic threats. You can't do that. You just can't do that at all. I don't know why you think you can. This is a reasonable restriction on the First Amendment.
And now, Scott, you have covered nearly all of the January 6th cases. What strikes you the most about this moment?
Natalie, in a sense, former President Trump's about to cross paths with so many of those other January 6 riot defendants who said they were here at the Capitol that day at his direction, in his name. Donald Trump's about to be prosecuted in that same federal courthouse where those 1,000 plus riot defendants have been prosecuted. His court appearance tomorrow is in a neighboring courtroom from other January 6 defendants, and it's the same charge. Obstruction of an official proceeding that 300 plus January 6 defendants have faced, some of whom have been imprisoned on that charge. And also, Natalie, the judge in this case, Judge Tanya Chutkin, a 2014 appointee. I've sat through hundreds of hearings, many of them with Judge Chutkin at the bench. She has been uniquely, powerfully strident in her denunciations of January 6th and everything that gave rise to it. This is her case after tomorrow.
Oh, so cooked.
Now is the former president's newest attorney to his team, John Lauro. John, thanks so much for being here tonight. You've read through this indictment. What is your defense going to look like?
Well, it's basically a regurgitation of the J6 committee report, but our focus is on the fact that this is an attack on free speech and political advocacy. And there's nothing that's more protected under the First Amendment than political speech. So at the end, our defense is going to be focusing on the fact that what we have now is an administration that has criminalized the free speech and advocacy of a prior administration during the time that there is a political election going on. That's unprecedented. We've never seen that in the United States, in the history of the United States. So literally what we have is an attack and really an effort to not only criminalize but also censor free speech. Donald Trump had every right to advocate for his position. While he was president, he saw irregularities, he saw deficiencies in the election process. He raised those. He was being told under oath by...
Like, you can't defend conspiring to break the law and conspiring to do a crime with the genuine intent to follow through on said crime on free speech grounds. This is not something that you can do unless you are truly able to craft a defense around some kind of like artistic interpretation or something like that. Unless you're literally like, no, Your Honor, this was a Hollywood script that we were following on. You misunderstood. You can't just be like, we should go rob a bank. Here are the maps. Here are the details. I will facilitate everything. And if the cops come, then we'll go and shoot back at them and blah, blah, blah. And then when you get caught, you go, oh, I was just exercising my free speech. Like, you can't do that.
People around the country that there were problems with the election. He also saw in real time that the rules were changing without the state legislatures weighing in. And ultimately, he had every right.
By the way, it's just rap lyrics. I didn't actually kill people. You're right. You could make an argument for free speech in that regard. You absolutely could, because that's a song. Trump is the president. He's not rapping about, fraudulent electors that he wants to set up or utilizing the military in the inevitable reaction that comes from him trying to successfully stop normal Congress proceedings from continuing by inciting a riot.
Right, in fact, a responsibility as a United States president to raise those issues. And now his advocacy is being criminalized.
Well, those are secretaries of state who were making those changes in those states because of the pandemic that was happening. You talk about free speech. Jack Smith noted Trump's right to free speech and to contest the election results. But what he says in this indictment is that when that did not work, the defendant, your client, pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results.
He didn't say, wake up in the morning, I got January 6th on my mind. Top of the hour comes and goes, and I ain't subscribed. Gonna commit a felony to make sure I get that Twitch Prime. Wake up in the morning, top of the hour ad break on my mind.
Results, and that is why he is being charged here, not because of anything related to free speech.
Yeah, but that's factually inaccurate, because the ultimate request that Mr. Trump made to Vice President Pence was pause the vote counting, allow the states to weigh in ultimately and audit or recertify. And under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, the actual responsibility for qualifying electors is in the state legislatures. Mr. Trump had the advice of counsel, Mr. Eastman, who was one of the most respected constitutional scholars in the United States, giving him advice and guidance. That's pure politics. You may disagree with it, and people have spirited arguments about the law all the time, and that's why lawyers are in business. But we've never had a situation where a spirited debate about the Constitution has become a criminal case. What's going to happen when there's a Republican administration? Is there going to be an effort to criminalize speech by Democrats? Is there going to be an effort to characterize something that a Democrat politician says that's not?
If a Democratic politician did exactly what Donald Trump did, they would be killed, okay? First of all, Democrats are quite literally spineless cowards, so good luck with that. But if a Democrat actually followed through, like if Joe Biden was like, yeah, Jack, I know I lost the election, but fuck it, why? Let's do something about it, Jack. Went to Kamala Harris and was like, come on, we need to put this on pause, Jack. Republicans would kill him. They would be like, all right, well, this is treason. We are going to shoot him. And then Democrats, in the interest of bipartisanship, would be like, okay, you can shoot him. But just like, I don't know, shoot him in the lower half of his body. Don't shoot him in the face. You know what I mean? Like, it's nuts. This comparison is nuts.
That doesn't meet some kind of truth standard at the Department of Justice, that's going to be the subject of a criminal indictment. We've now entered a constitutional abyss as a result of this indictment.
No, the real constitutional abyss has been ongoing, but specifically will happen if Donald Trump ends up winning the presidency while he's in jail.
But John, I should note that you're saying that he was just asking him to send them back. No, I was just talking to the chief of staff who was with Pence that day. He said he was being asked to do something illegal that Pence did not have the right to do, to reject them. And you mentioned the attorneys there that you say, John Eastman, he's a co-conspirator in this indictment, I should note. And the indictment lists all of the people who told Trump that his claims about election fraud weren't true, including the vice president, senior Justice Department leaders, the Director of National Intelligence, CISA, which of course is in charge of making sure elections in the U.S. are secure, senior White House attorneys, campaign staffers, state legislators that you just...
Oh my God. Trump deserves everything he's getting, dude. You put Sidney Powell in a room with you, you deserve it. Also, what the fuck is Cheese Bro? Kenneth Cheese Bro? What are these lawyers? Where do you find them? I'm sorry, dog. You hire a guy by the name of Kenneth Cheesebro for anything. Like, you hire him to fucking fry some French fries for you. You deserve to be food poisoned, okay? My man's name is Kenneth Cheesebro, dude.
Mentioned there in the courts.
Right. What was not true? That there were states where ballots were sent out without people asking for them, where there were changes in verification, where there were instances where ballots were not being supervised at drop-off places. The president was told, given advice, that under these circumstances, the state legislatures have the ultimate ability to qualify electors. He followed that advice. Now, you may disagree as to whether or not those things actually occurred or not. That's why we have political debate. We don't have criminal trials over that. We have the discussion like we're just having.
But it matters if those things actually occurred or not, John.
Not under the First Amendment.
It matters if those things actually occurred because...
Not at all, because under the First Amendment...
It does matter if it was actually fraud.
No, the First Amendment allows...
But John, let me stop you there, because if he's saying that there was fraud, the First Amendment doesn't allow the President of the United States to go and claim there was fraud when he was told there was not fraud and then try to subvert the election by overturning legitimate electors. I mean, it says it right here in the actual indictment.
Absolutely.
The only smoking gun in this, and I believe in my heart of heart it exists, is just Trump, dead to rights, being like, I knew it was fraudulent. There was no fraud. I lied. What can they do about it? I lied. What are they going to do? Throw me in jail? I wanted to do a riot. It would be so sick. I mean, I think they already have, dead to rights, a lot of information to get him clapped up. It'd be so awesome. Because I know, given what I know about Donald Trump, and I am the #1 Trump historian in the country, #1 stand for Donald Trump in the country, in the nation, I know in my heart of hearts it's out there. He has said it. And it was probably recorded.
The First Amendment protects
So
all
it
speech.
protects.
If we're going to have a situation where the Department of Justice is going to fact check politicians and indict politicians for political speech and whether or not they're factually accurate, then this country will shut down politically, because it's a never-ending cycle of tit for tat. And that's the risk of injecting politics into the criminal justice system. So right now, people disagree with President Trump. What's going to happen 4 years from now if somebody disagrees with President Biden in terms of what he said during the election?
First of all, that'd be fire. Lock him up. You know what I mean? But secondly, I love that this guy is just straight up being like, no, you can lie to try to deliberately incite a riot and also change the outcome of an election. Like, you should be able to do that. Like, why is that illegal? Like, that's the argument here, which is crazy. I need you to understand, he's doing lawyer speak, but like, ultimately what his argument is like, well, it shouldn't be illegal. Like, you should be able to absolutely just, you know, willingly and knowingly lie about the outcome of an election when everyone around you has told you that you're incorrect. People in your cabinet, people around you have told you that you're incorrect, and you're desperately seeking out lawyers that will tell you that you're actually right, like some sycophants. And then you move on and you try to stop normal processes from occurring with this like half-assed like cooked up plan, with knowing full well that it will cause riots all around the nation, with the idea that you're going to utilize the military to squash said riots, and also conspire to set up false electors too.
That's why we don't criminalize political speech. Political speech under the First Amendment has an almost absolute protection. Nobody gets to judge whether it's true or not, except the American people.
Except a president has lied under oath, like perjured himself under oath. Bill Clinton. Nixon as well, but Bill Clinton too. You couldn't, I don't know, someone was screaming in the background. You can't just like get away with it. You can't be like, oh, it's First Amendment.
And we do that in an election. We do that in an election. We do that in the case of a president by impeachment, but we don't indict people
John,
for speech.
I got to stop you there. But Trump is not being indicted for lying here. He is being indicted for using unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and trying to subvert the election results.
Well, what's the unlawful means? There was an effort to get alternate electors.
He was trying to overturn
which is a protocol
fake electors who were not legitimate.
That was used in 1960 by John Kennedy. And it was a protocol that was constitutionally accepted. So there's nothing wrong about that. In fact, in the indictment itself, it doesn't allege that there was anything wrong. And the final ask that Mr. Trump made to Vice President Pence was simply pause the voting. There's nothing inherently unconstitutional or illegal about that. In fact, he had an opinion.
That's so awesome. You can just simply ask, dude. Like, okay, let me explain something to you. For example, let's say you tell Mike Pence that you are going to acquire a gun and simply shoot him in the fucking head. Okay? And then, you know, Mike Pence immediately goes to the authorities and says, this person made a death threat towards me. Okay? You can't turn around and go, well, I simply said I'm going to get a weapon and shoot him in the head. But that's allowed. Like, you can say it. It's like something that I could just say. I didn't like actually mean it, even though I did mean it. And I planned for what to do after I shot you in the head, and also conspired to shoot you in the head, conspired to get a gun, which is technically legal. It's under my Second Amendment rights. Like, you can't do that. The idea that this guy says that the request is legal is silly. John Eastman, who made the final ask, literally proposed it to Pence as a violation of the law. His words, at 11:44 p.m., co-conspirator 2 emailed the vice president's counsel advocating that the vice president violate the law and seek further delay of the certification. Co-conspirator 2 wrote, I implore you to consider one more relatively minor violation of the ECA and adjourn for 10 days to allow the legislatures to finish their investigations, as well as to allow a full forensic audit of the massive amount of illegal activity that has occurred here. Trump's legal team loves to say that he's within his rights to contest election results, but Al Gore did that with the legal system without inciting his voters to the Capitol. He fought in the courts and lost frustratingly. If Trump left it at that, it would have been at least precedented and more palatable, understandable. But obviously, he lost all the court cases of the problem. He escalated to an extrajudicial solution. Yes. And also, with respect to Al Gore, he didn't just lose in the courts. The Republicans even then used extrajudicial reasons or extrajudicial solutions, which were not criminally prosecuted, that caused a recount from stopping. So Republicans back then successfully used an extrajudicial solution to physically stop a recount from occurring in the state of Florida. It was called the Brooks Brothers riot. So, of course, they probably think they could have gotten away with it again, I assume.
From a very well-known constitutional scholar that said that's fine, that's legal. Mr. Trump is not a lawyer. He's a businessman.
His own attorney general and officials said that was not fine, that was certainly illegal that he was asking. And they weren't just asking for a pause. He was asking to overturn the legitimate results. But John, let me ask you, because your running point on this, is Trump going to show up in person?
He was
John,
asked. He was
let me
asked.
ask you
Let me
this:
just
is
finish
Trump
that.
going to
He
show
was
up in
asked to
person for his
pause.
arraignment on
That's
Thursday?
That's up to the court. You know, the court makes those decisions. So we're prepared to follow whatever the court rules are.
John,
the judge issued a summons, and he will appear either virtually or in person.
Okay, so it's not clear if it's virtually or in person. But one thing to get back to there, he's not just asking for a pause. Your client.
No. You have to look at his last.
John, your
you have
client
to
is
look
on
at what he
tape.
said. You have to look at what he said at the ellipse. Have you read the ellipse
John,
speech?
you got to let me finish my point
No.
here.
When
Your client, John,
when you look
is
at the
on
ellipse
tape
speech,
with
that's
the
exactly
former
what he said.
the Secretary of State of the state of Georgia. John, you got to let me finish my point here. I'm letting you finish your point.
Absolutely.
But your
Go
client
ahead.
is on tape with the Secretary of State from the state of Georgia asking him to find him one more vote than he would need to win the state. That's not asking for a pause. He's asking for votes that he did not get in that election.
He was asking for the Secretary of State to identify votes that were not counted properly and factor.
That's the hardest one to defend. I gotta hand it to him, bro. Respect. You gotta be a real fucking shark to just openly state things like that on national television. Like, he's out of his freaking mind, dude. I mean, come on, brother. He didn't even ballpark it. That's the worst part. In my opinion, if he ballparked it, even then it's like indefensible. But at least there's a tiny sliver of like bad faith, cynical defenses you can apply. He just straight up said the exact number +1. Like, that's insane. That makes it worse, in my opinion. Like, he didn't just ballpark and be like, come on, 15,000, 12,000. He's like 11,843 or whatever. 11,786 votes.
That in. And by the way, that discussion took place with dozens of people on a phone call with lawyers involved, and no one was suggesting doing anything illegal.
Yeah, he was going to use the military. I talked about this earlier. He just straight up said, well, Deputy White House Counsel, that's why there is an Insurrection Act. The Deputy White House Counsel reiterated the co-conspirator for that there had not been outcome determinative fraud in the election, that if the defendant remained in office nonetheless, there would be riots in every major city in the United States. To which co-conspirator 4 responded, well, Deputy White House Counsel, that's why there's an Insurrection Act. Trump is in the age range of watching The Price is Right like it's his religion. He's just doing what he's been trained for. That's a good take, actually. That's probably why. That's probably why he hit the exact number necessary. God, it's so good. It's so good. American politics is so good all the time, always. Just fucking incredible, dude.